Hi, and welcome back to my Devlog series, where I talk about the progress that I made in developing my third-person game set in space and using Godot as the engine. This week I started development on the first real level of the game. It's a research base in orbit of an asteroid that has the ground base. The level is a space station that is deployed as a movable research base by the corporation that forms the background in my game. The level itself consists of multiple parts. First we have the landing platform and an elevator to the loading bay. Then there's an entrance lobby with a checkpoint. There's a communication station. Then we have the main unit, which is split in two parts. The front has housing and the related infrastructure, a cafeteria, air and water processing, and there are offices and desks. And then the second half is lab areas. And we have a back unit that has an additional lab. And there are further security checkpoints for this. The lower parts of the ship are mostly engineering. There are batteries and engines. And as you can see, the ship is covered in solar panels which provide the power. I blocked out the design in Blender first, and the layout of the floors is done there. And then I import that into the engine, where I can work with it further. I also created a very simple modular set of assets that I can build up the levels with. They're just block-ins for now and not final, but most of the functions that I will have later are there and I can just replace them. I also made this very simple material in Substance Designer. It's a universal spaceship surface material. And for now my assets don't have any UVs, so I'm just tiling this asset on them and it looks fine for the moment. I also started doing lighting tests, as you can see. So the interiors need very different approach than the exterior. And I used a lot of emissive lights. And I also added more lights to the player. There are two helmet lights. There's an additional light on this little companion bot that I will talk about in a minute. And when I'm aiming, I have another light on the gun. So I think a few of the levels might stay quite dark, because that gives a very nice atmosphere as well, especially with those emissive lights in the walls. And I also started to try light map baking. So that is a process where every asset you have gets a second UV channel, so a mapping of every surface. And then the engine calculates, similar to how Blender and Cycles would do it, with using raycasting, how the indirect light would bounce around in the room, and then bakes that all to a texture that can be read when the game's running. This gives very nice light, very soft gradients. Of course, the downside is that moving objects will not be affected by this. So there are light probes, which are probes in space, which sample light, this indirect light, and this is also baked. And then the moving players will use that information to simulate some indirect lighting. And of course, the direct light is visible on moving actors as well. And I think it looks pretty good. I also got doors working, and they can use different keys. So not all of these doors are available immediately, but some of them need you to unlock. So you can either find a key or use a switch to unlock them, which for the engine is the same for the programming. And this allows me to lock off certain areas at first and guide the player more in these levels. And perhaps you would find a key in another location and then can return to this earlier level and explore more areas that were previously hidden for perhaps secret collectibles or alternate optional bosses, these kind of things. You probably also noticed that I added this little companion bot to the player. And it has two purposes. So the first is, it shows you the currency of what you have. This is another thing I added. Whenever you kill an enemy, you get an amount of currency. And that currency has two uses. So for one, I think there is a system that I am planning that would allow you to upgrade and customize your weapon in certain ways. I'm not so interested in a traditional RPG progression system, but I do believe in giving additional options on how you could approach the game. And so I would like to make this somehow bound to this currency. And the reason is, the second reason, that why I have this bot. I gave the player the ability to heal a bit of their health. So if you look at the side of this bot, there's a cylinder that is glowing a bit, and same as the health bar on the back of the player. And you can use this, it's basically like a second health bar. You can use it to refill your own. But if you want to refill this bot's reservoir, then either you have to exit the level and kind of reset all the enemies and start over, or you can convert some of the currency you got into player health, into health packs basically. So there's a trade-off to be done between saving your currency for upgrades or using it to heal and get another chance in the game. And I have some very simple algorithm in place that makes it more expensive the longer you use it until you die or it's somehow reset in another way. So it incentivizes you to not abuse the system if you can, and try and play better. Try and not take damage if possible. And of course the enemies are still working with this geometry just as well. Navigation mesh is working just fine. It has become apparent to me that implementing a site checking for the enemies is very urgent at this point, because some of those chasing enemies will chase you before you even see them, because they're just checking the distance and they can go through closed doors, because I think otherwise you can abuse the AI very easily. So that is a bit jarring, and I think one of the next things to implement for sure is getting vision to work. It's already set up, so I just need to implement it in essence. And then I think I need another enemy, a moving shooting enemy, which is something I don't have at the moment. And then a little bit more sophisticated AI behavior. The setup is there, but I haven't done one yet. So I'm excited for that. And also, of course, I need to continue working on the base, on the design of the level, the layout. It's really quite architectural, this work, and I enjoy it a lot. I hope you're excited to see what it will turn out to be. And I'll see you again soon. Thank you for watching.